Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 78 of the ITSM crowd. This is our fourth episode this week. I really hope you've had a chance to see the ones that we've done so far because they've been excellent, covering everything from collaboration to mental health and how to improve the resilience of your organisation. We've got one more episode today as well, which is, let me check, at 4 p.m. BST. So I hope you can catch that one too. The reason we've had all these episodes this week is because of a new publication called the Jigsaw Organisation, which you can download for free. You can see the link on screen just now. And the Jigsaw Organisation was really, it came from me thinking about the changes we've experienced this year and this kind of concept that we've broken our organizations down into pieces. We've got staff scattered all over the places. Our business processes have changed. Our technology is doing things that we maybe didn't expect it was going to do. And initially, I think there was a lot of organizations thought we were just going to snap back into place, give it a couple of months, we'll be back to where we were before. But we realize now that's not the case. And I started to think about, how might we evolve our organizations? How could we become better? And so I went to some of the finest minds in our industry, so expert consultants, practitioners from the leadership space, management, IT service management, technology, and just asked them all to contribute some thoughts, which we then collected together in the Jigsaw organisation. So if you're looking for some inspiration, I really would recommend that you download that. But this week, we've been having the ITSM crowd episodes as well, just bringing some of those authors and contributors in and asking them to share a little bit more information. So today we're joined by Rob, Cherry and Alex. And the first thing I'm going to do is just ask them to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about what they contributed to the publication. So Rob, if I can come to you first, please.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm Rob England. I'm here in Wellington, New Zealand as a consultant, and we, because Dr. Vu will introduce herself in a minute, but we work in two spaces, one in ITSM and IT management, that's me, and at an organizational management level, which is Cherry and sometimes me, and think about getting people to change what they do and the ways they work. And so this current crisis is right in our zone because we have been thinking about new ways of working for the last 3 years and breaking all that down. So yes, we contributed a chapter about our ideas around the new ways of working and managing and how you adapt in a VUCA world, or our collection of the ideas. They're not ours. I mean, we're bringing them together, and particularly in understanding that there isn't a new normal in the sense of a new stable state, that this is what it is, and we need to learn to live in a VUCA world. That was our piece of it.
Thank you very much. And Cherry?
Hello, everybody. I'm Cherry Vu. So I'm Rob England's boss, as everyone's already knows. We always think that there's a chance. In crisis. There's always chance if we prepare enough and if we are agile enough to adapt with the new situation and advance ourselves to cope with the situation, and we can be better in doing business. And we see many cases that our clients, they coping very well with the situation, and yep, we are happy to share the idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alex?
Mm-hmm. Yes, hello everyone, and thank you very much for inviting. This is my first time being in ITSM crowd, surely. Yeah. So my name is Alex Yenin, and I'm based in Poland, in Warsaw. And over the last 12 years, I've been working as an ITSM and Agile framework consultant. And I collaborate with clients from all over the world. So that gives me an opportunity to have a good background working with remote teams and remote companies, and actually that I wanted to share in our book, in our let's say set of articles. Yeah, my personal experience in management, working with remote teams and remote organizations. Also, I'm an Atlassian expert, meaning that I'm trying to combine technical skills and management frameworks. So I think it's quite important to understand, for example, what limitations and what abilities you can have in ITSM product, for example, to support CMDB implementation, incident management process implementation. And for last 4 years, I've been mostly working with one major client. It's Sony Electronics Corporation, and I help this company with productivity and knowledge management frameworks implementation and support. So besides the work, I love mountains. I love go hiking. So if anybody interested to be my mountain partner, please drop me a message on LinkedIn. Yeah, so.
Thank you very much. Should I get to Poland, I will definitely take you up on that. It's we take technology for granted. It astonishes me that I'm sat here in my little garden office in York chatting to people in New Zealand and Poland. I think it's wonderful. But for the people who are watching us live as well, we also have the facility to answer your questions. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask, pop them into the YouTube comments. We can bring them up on screen, and we'll deal with those during the broadcast. So I think, Rob and Cherry, if I can come to you first. You've written a book about management, and in the article you talk about management, and the sort of the contrast that jumps out to me immediately is a lot of people focus on leadership, which feels very far away and very distant for a lot of people in organizations. Why is your focus on the management level?
You go first.
We're not a good Laurel and Hardy team. Who goes first? So, who's on first? So we think management's the key. And if you look at so many of these transformations, ITIL, we've been guilty for, looking at all of us except Cherry here, we've been guilty for years of being involved in ITIL implementations, and so many of them don't succeed. There's all that data of around, only a quarter of new ways of working, whatever they may be, succeed, transformations, and 3/4 of them fail. And why is that? And I think there's a recurring pattern that we all see, which is that the management doesn't change, and there isn't work invested to change how we manage the system. And so do the DevOps. Everybody go and do the DevOps, and then they're not doing the DevOps. What's wrong with them that they're not doing the DevOps? They must be broken. and nobody stops to say, well, they can't do the DevOps because you're managing them in exactly the same way that you always have, and you're not giving them the room to work in new ways. And you're still measuring and assessing them in the old ways. So we think that's the pin you pull out that lets the whole thing proceed, is coaching and helping the middle managers especially, but all management, to manage differently so that we can work differently, so that we can give people the empowerment to make decisions in the line and to move quickly and to automate and to innovate and do things that they're currently constrained from doing. So we saw that as the neglected key to getting things to work in new ways.
It's also that the leaders, when we call the head of the organization, that's the leader, sometimes they are not. they're not a leader. They're not leading. They are not leading. They are acting as a roles of management. So when they understand the ideas of unlocking management, they step back more to be a leader rather than leading people, rather than just managing people as they always do. Yeah.
And does that, Alex, reflect your experience that change comes at the management level?
Actually, yeah, I would like to ask a question to the guys. That, for example, Rob just mentioned that it's a common case, not common, but it's a popular case when, for example, it could be a lack of management support and within cultural changes, right, and organizational changes, for example, introducing a new framework. But it can be not very clear from the very beginning. You can start working, right, and then you can see that the changes, they're not going so smoothly and so quickly as you expected. And my question to the guys would be like, how do you understand? Do you have like any framework to understand that? Okay, so it's definitely a case of lack of management support, right? So we need to work with management. And if you see this trigger, so how do you have any framework or something that you use to sell your changes to the management to get their support? Because I actually been in such cases for quite frequently, right? And if you're focusing on that, so I would definitely would like to listen to some advice, pieces of advice.
We're being interviewed.
There'll be an invite at the end of this, Alex.
I love the way technical people asking about framework. You have to have a framework to angle things, otherwise go wise.
I think it's a really good question of how do you detect that that's the issue, and I think you kind of just know, right? And we can look at if we analyze if we look at the system and how's the system working, and we analyze what are the bottlenecks, then and get the management to do that, then the penny drops pretty quickly. Oh, is it us? So John Seddon talks about this in he's got a new book out called Beyond Command and Control. And the second half is all ITSM, by the way, since we've got an ITSM crowd audience. But the first half is generic management of systems, and it's brilliant. And then the second half, he goes down into service desk and service and as systems. And so it's, for this audience, the whole book's interesting. Whereas for some of the people we talk to, the second half kind of loses them. But anyway, Seddon talks about taking the management to the Gemba, taking them to the work, taking them to the system and showing them the system, and thinking about value stream maps and how the system behaves, and talking to the people who do the work and understanding what their problems are, what their challenges are, where are the bottlenecks. And very often the bottleneck is the way we're managing. So as we understand, and so to put it in terms for our community here, the hot spot is continuous delivery. When we try and achieve continuous delivery, that's often a battleground between the crazy cowboys that want to fire into production and the ITSM people that want to lock it all down and control it, and the management who really don't understand and want to micromanage it all. And so when you look at the flow, it's very often management controls that are getting in the way of us changing how we work and getting to where we want to be. So the symptom is that we can see that it's because we have to comply with risk management standards that don't understand how you manage risk in a highly volatile world is not by having 3-month cycles and 65 gates to get through to get to production. That's not how you control risk in the new world. But they're still trying to manage in that way. And they still want, micro data reported to them manually, which tools like Alex works with could perfectly well capture and report automatically in a DevOps continuous delivery world, but they're still demanding the old patterns, and they want team structures that are separated by functional silos when the agile people want cross-functional teams, and yada, yada, yada. So as you understand what the impediments are to getting to new ways of working and to getting flow, very often those impediments are not coming from the dev people or the ops people or the ITSM people. They're the policies that are imposed on us and the controls that are imposed on us that are preventing us from all getting together and changing that.
So at the enterprise level, when we start working with any clients, they all often ask, okay, well, how you approach it? How we approach our business? I said, okay, we start at the pain point. What is your customer pain points? What the most painful place that your customers are facing at the moment? So we work from that, and from that we unpack what happened in the inside organization. And so when the manager see the see the pain point of customer, see the pain point of their people, and then they involve, that we start from that. We don't have any, we have a picture of where we want to go, but we don't have any framework to bring it in and say, here we go. We have all the how to call, all the key for you to do. We just help you to find the key.
So we do facilitate finding the answer within the group, but I just have to almost jokingly say we do have a framework because everybody expects you to have a framework. So we created a thing called the unicorn management model, and we created a giant wheel with arrows and words because everybody wants one. And it's in the book, but it's in the book almost as a joke to say, oh, yeah. So there isn't a strict pattern that we can apply in the same way that we would apply ITIL patterns, because we think that these things are exploratory and emergent. How you get to where you're going is something you have to discover as you go. And it's a challenge for us, Alex, because trying to have those conversations with managers who are still thinking in the old patterns is like, wait, what? I don't understand. It sounds alien.
Yeah, that's the point. Okay, thank you very much. So back to your question, Claire. May I proceed? Actually, a bit about that topic. So changes from my background. So I would like to share one recent case, actually, when we were responsible for productivity, let's say, improvement or increase in one large organization. So, and firstly, we started to change something, like to work at the teams and so on, and then we understood that it's not working so well. So what we did, we created this picture of what we would like to have, as Cherry mentioned, right, and where we are now. And then we went to top management, actually to a sponsor, let's say, who's paying for that, right? And we asked them, if you would like to get there, do you like this picture? And they replied, well, definitely. And so we proposed like 5 steps. Do you agree? They replied, definitely. Okay, so what we did, we created, let's say, a maturity model. It's very similar to standard capability model, like maturity increase, like 5 steps. And we created like a checklist for each step, right? Action plan and checklist. And we came to the team and proposed, okay, this is the first step, very basic. So we explain you what we're going to do. We do some presentations. We maybe give you access to some productivity system, and that's it. And next step, like you are trained in some process, like incident management process, for example, and you have your service desk project, let's say in Jira, right? And next step, we train you in Agile, we give you more knowledge, and we also introduce more tools and more frameworks for you, like. And then like we were just working on daily basis with the team, on weekly basis, have a lot of meetings. And when on middle management, we had a blocker, for example, manager, a team lead, he didn't understand the value of these changes, and he was not motivated because of some reasons, or he just wanted to work in the old-fashioned way, right? So we just showed this metrics and measured, okay, so please look on the other teams, right? So please look on the team where you have like next door to you and sitting in the next room, and they're on like fourth level and you on the first level. Yeah, we just celebrated with them last Friday, and we're drinking beer, celebrating this achievement. Yeah, so it's a kind of like, firstly, of course, it's a strong sponsor support of doing that. Secondly, it's a kind of, very strict way where we are going. And thirdly, it's like a bit of competition, a bit of gamification, a bit of funny things, right? So I couldn't tell that it went super good, because of course there were some obstacles and something, but I think it helped us a lot to bring us up, to improve what we're going to improve. So that's my experience.
And I think coming back to kind of this concept of management and this idea of policies, maybe slowing things down in the organization, that is one thing we've seen this year, is that actually when we put our minds to it, when there's an external driver, actually we can make changes happen incredibly quickly. And there's lots of jokes about, who's driving digital transformation in your organization. It's COVID. And, we see companies that have achieved more in 6 months than they have in the things they've been chatting about in the last 6-7 years. But that has come with huge challenges for managers, I think. And for some of them, it's been this shift to managing remote teams and, working with a distributed workforce, whereas previously everybody was co-located. And, I'd kind of like to talk to you all about the challenges that's created, and maybe some of the ways that we can advise managers and help managers. But I think, Alex, if I come to you first, because this is an area where you wrote about in the Jigsaw organization, what are the challenges that these managers are seeing, and what advice would you give them to help them build that virtual team?
Yeah, so basically everybody is working from home, the teams working from home, organizations, they were working from home these days, right? And but still we need to give some frameworks and tools to the managers and to the specialists to work, let's say, productive way, to work in transparent way. And what's important to keep the mood, right? Because a lot of people, they're dismotivated, let's say, by working. They just sit in their room and at home, right? And sometimes the links are broken with the other team members and with the goals they're trying to achieve individually or as a team, and it's all we need to consider. So actually what I was trying to show in the article, that firstly we need to set processes, right? So actually processes, people and products, right? Again, so we need to set good processes, because my experience is with service teams, with operational teams, but in ideal world, a service team can be like a dedicated team, right? So it's just purely service team. But in most cases, from my experience, a team can combine service activities, operational activities, and development activities, like project work, let's say, right? And so it's very important to set nice processes. Like, for example, for operational activities, again, we should build a service catalog of this team. We should organize a way to communicate, to report new requests, to report incidents in the right way, in a good way for both sides, for customers and for the team, for for the responsible team, right? So we need to set this all. We need to set a good daily heartbeats, let's say, for this team. So, for example, if it's an operational team, this daily stand-up meetings is really a good stuff, yeah, because we can have a video call, we can discuss our obstacles, what we were working like tomorrow, what we are going to focus on today, and so on. Yep, and we need also, of course, it's about expectations between the team and the customer. So, addition to the service offering, we need to have SLAs formalized, and so also typical process activities. And if you are working, if we do work, development work, right? So we need to understand what we are trying to achieve. We need to introduce maybe a project management framework, like for example Scrum or whatever. Yeah. So it's also about processes. Yeah. And from management perspective, it's always a challenge to understand, like if it's team focusing on both service work and development work. Yeah. So to balance the load, to balance capability, to balance performance, to understand how on what to focus if we have like something urgent on, or we can plan our activities. Yeah, to find this balance between planned and unplanned work. Yeah, from the people perspective, I try to describe some personal advices, like to how to keep the mood, how to keep the ball rolling. Yeah, because it's good to, for example, some personal advices, to listen to good music, to do some sports, to communicate, to collaborate, like maybe to trying to have this like Zoom beer parties with your colleagues from time to time. Yeah, it's also happen. And of course, if you're talking about products, it should be a good choice of products to help in your work, not to make your life worse and more complicated, but to help. Yeah, it's a good product set to increase your productivity, to increase the help with collaboration. Yeah, so yeah, please, if you have any questions about my article and about this stuff, so again, you're welcome to ping me.
Thank you. And Rob and Cherry, just to kind of bring us home, I guess, because that time's gone really quickly. What kind of challenges are you seeing managers experiencing, and what tips can you give them to be effective?
For me, I think it's one of the biggest challenges for people who work in a way that they have to believe more, to give more trust to their people.
Yes,
that's the biggest thing, because when you, especially in the crisis, you can't locate like the same way, you can't work at the same way, so you have to give people more freedom to do their job. Otherwise, there's no way to be success, or to do anything. Yep.
It is. Sorry.
Yep. And another thing I think is a challenge, that people have the mindset of having fixed plan.
yeah.
There's things change so quickly, and you have to change to adapt to the situation. But a lot of people just stick with their plan. They have to let it go and replanning. I think constantly replanning is one thing that I would suggest. Thank you.
So if we managers really need to understand VUCA, the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world we live in. And I love the saying that what got you here won't get you there.
Yes.
It's not that what you're doing is wrong, because you're in a successful organization that's working. So obviously you're not doing the wrong thing, but it's less and less effective with every passing every new crisis. And the world is just becoming so accelerated by technology, and by technology primarily. And that these, like as Cherry said, fixed planning models and low trust work environments they worked, but they work less and less. And so managers who are struggling with this, I think, need to actually start from first principles, from their beliefs, from understanding how that changes in a volatile world. What are the new ways of thinking that you as a manager need to start getting comfortable with, like trusting your people and giving them space to experiment with new ways, like Alex was talking about, and to explore what works. And one big one we haven't mentioned at all, sorry Claire for time, but one big one we haven't mentioned at all is tolerance of failure.
Mm-hmm.
That in a volatile world, you cannot execute perfectly all the time, and we have to stop that expectation and have an entirely different approach to failure, and which links to the trust again.
That's brilliant. I think, we keep these to 30 minutes. It never feels like quite enough, but we see where people drop off videos as well. I hope that's giving you just a tiny insight into the phenomenal expertise that Alex and Rob and Cherry have got, because these are some of the most experienced people in our industry. But if you want to find out more, to contact them, to follow up, you can see Cherry and Rob's website here, and that's in the link underneath the YouTube video as well. Social media too, LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can see Alex's website here, and also there if you want to connect with Alex on LinkedIn. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you so much, Alex, Cherry and Rob, for being with us and just sharing some thoughts there. We have one final ITSM crowd for this week, which is at 4 p.m. BST today. And we are going to be talking about resilience and how a more agile mindset can help you in your organization. So I think that's probably a nice follow on from some of the themes that we've been talking about this morning or this evening for Rob and Cherry. But thank you so much to our panel. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Thank you everybody who's been watching, and I will see you on the next episode of the ITSM crowd. Thank you everyone.
Thank you so much.